Ladies and gents, if we could have a bit of order, just in trying to keep the evening moving as swiftly as we can. I'll now call on Dee Forbes to speak on the importance of community for progress. So, Dee Forbes, please.
Thank you, Tyke, Reverend Father, Chairman, and fellow Scorchers. It's wonderful to be here tonight with so many faces I recognise, but showing my age, lots I don't as well. But I think, as Tyke said at the beginning, we all come from Drimoleague or from Drina, and again, a bit like many of us, I spent much of my life outside the country and I'm now back. But in all my time away, if I was introduced as being from Cork, I'd say, no, actually you're wrong, it's West Cork and it's Drimoleague. And I think that is something that everyone in this room is very proud of, and after all, it is the town that we all love very well. So, as I was thinking about tonight, and I suppose I got a bit nostalgic, because I was thinking back to the 70s and the 80s when I grew up in Drimoleague. And it got me thinking about the street that I lived on, the East End that went to the West End. So I reflected back, and all I can remember as a child growing up in Drimoleague was what a vibrant, exciting and busy place Drimoleague was. And here's why. We had 10 pubs. We had 17 shops, of which there were 2 butchers, 2 electrical, 1 hardware and electrical, 6 grocery shops, 1 pharmacy, the famous sweet shop, 3 drapers, a post office, 3 hairdressers, 1 undertaker, 5 garages, a blacksmith, 2 factories, 1 oil company head office, 3 churches, and 1 parish hall. Now, we'll have a bit of fun later if any of you can name all of those shops, starting at the East End and going all the way to the West End. But that's what Drimoleague was when I was growing up. It was a fabulous village which had community at its heart. Everyone pulled together, everyone worked together, and it was all for one thing, to put Drimoleague on the map and Drina on the map. Now, alongside that, we had 1 GAA club. We had the race committee, the ICA, the show committee, the Gala Week committee, the bowling committee, and every political party showed its colours at election time. So it really was a colourful, colourful place. The Drimoleague newsletter was printed every month by my Uncle Jim, and everything else you needed to know was on the poster in Mary John V's, or on the pole at the bottom of the bridge, because at that time, life was simple. And it didn't take meetings for people to come up with ideas of the next thing for Drimoleague. They happened naturally, and I'm proud to say the East End was one of those places where many an idea was concocted and was put into execution and happened. And as I say, life was simple and things seemed to happen naturally because we had a community that made things happen. Now fast forward to 2017, and a lot has changed. But some things are still the same, and they're the things that are hugely important. We're here tonight because of the GAA, and that continues to have a very, very special place in the hearts and lives of Irish people everywhere. But Clann Ngael has outlived recession and immigration, and continues to have pride of place at the centre of the community, despite difficulties on the pitch. We're in a globalised and a connected world, and it's never been more important for countries to champion their identities, and that is incredibly true for us, the Irish. We're in a funny place. We're sandwiched between the UK and the US on the fringe of Europe, and we have to work harder than ever to ensure our Irishness survives and thrives. Now, for me, it's our cultural uniqueness that can outshine the modern-day culture of Apple, Google, and Facebook. And our language and our culture sets us apart and allows us to stand out from the crowd. But that all stems from local communities, communities like ours and others around the country. And that finds its most tangible expression in a sense of place. And I know Pat's going to talk a bit more about that as we go forward. But our community has come through tough times. It will continue to go through tough times. And it's only if people pull together and really set out on a mission to do some good for the place that things will change. Now, every community is a piece on the mosaic that is Irishness. And it's only through efforts to conserve and understand and champion local heritage that our collective and cultural uniqueness and distinctiveness will endure. And that is a shared, beneficial, modern resource that allows us to progress on a local and on a national level. Now, you heard earlier, Drimoleague is progressing. It's a centre for walking. It's producing internationally renowned dairy products. And now, again, as Sean mentioned, the world we live in, the internet, allows anyone to speak to the world from Drimoleague. Skibbereen has set up the Ludgate Digital Hub for West Cork, and that is a huge advantage for all to be taken as we move forward. If I take Skibbereen just for 1 minute, because again, we are all part of that community, it's attracting people back to West Cork. And again, I hope people coming back, bringing skills, bringing ideas, are going to really help re-energise the community that we live in. And again, it's incumbent on every one of us coming back to make sure we play our part. The future for Drimoleague is bright, but the future is only bright if you want it to be. And again, as Sean said, there's a lot to be done, but all of us in this room have a real pride in where we come from. It is important that we do pull together, that we use the resources that we have to drive the future, and that we get on with it. Because it's only people in this room that can make Drimoleague really sustainable and be strong for the future. And if my father was here, he would end with a cúpla focail os Gaeilge. So in memory of Dad, Ní nart go cur le céile, which is no strength without unity. We have it. Have a great night, everybody.
I can see you all down there writing all the names of those shops that Deirdre mentioned, so there'll be a quiz later on the... I think there's 11 pubs. You had 10, Deirdre. I had 11 at some stage. And the other thing I had was the hairdressers, obviously. They were big in my house, as you can tell. There was 3 hairdressers, so I did well on that one. No call on Dr. Sean McCarthy. Sean is going to speak to us on skills graduates' needs to prevent the decline of rural Ireland. Welcome, Sean.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How many people are from Drina tonight? Okay, so I'm not alone. I'm not as well known as a lot of the people here tonight. So for the older generation, my father was Jerry McCarthy, who worked in Drina Co-op in the lower wholesale. And for the younger-ish generation, about 4 years ago, I was trying to learn about social media. So I decided to set up a Facebook group called Drina People. And I checked it this morning, there's 925 people all over the world, every week sharing stories, photos, meeting each other all over the world. So any of you here that are on Drina People, here's a big like. Now, Sean asked me to say a few words, and I want to talk about skills. Now, there's a lot of young people here tonight. I'm talking to you. I'm 58, you're all young, full of energy. And I want to tell you the skills that are missing in rural Ireland and that are missing in Ireland. I'm going to tell you about one skill. And I'm going to tell you something tonight that nobody in your career has ever told you. That I wish somebody had told me. I found it the hard way. And it's something that's missing in the whole education system. Not in Ireland or across Europe. The Americans have it. The Europeans and Irish don't have it. So wait for it. So first of all, I need to tell you what I do. Now, what I started out doing is I'm an electronics engineer, and I started working on solar energy. You know those solar farms that have been planned for West Cork and so on? We were developing those technologies back in the 80s, and I was flying all over Europe, meeting scientists, companies, and so on. So I had a fantastic time for 10 years, literally visiting every place in Europe. And in 1988, I set up a company called Hyperion to make a business out of what I was doing. Now, what I was doing, there was a huge recession, if you remember, in 1988. I actually didn't know there was a recession. So I set up a company in the middle of the biggest recession that we ever had. But my business was in Europe. So I was flying all over Europe, talking at conferences, exhibiting, writing articles in paper, new magazines about the technologies we were developing. And we started winning all these contracts. Now the contracts were all high-tech contracts. So what I used to do was, I'd come back to Ireland, put together a bunch of scientists who are experts in the fields, and go out and sell the contracts and so on. And then we started getting bigger and bigger contracts. So I was subcontracting to huge research centres in Germany. So I was like a middleman between the scientists and the businesses. Around 1995 then, I was approached by a director of a big research centre in Europe, and she said to me, how come you can go out there and win all this business, and our scientists, who are the world's experts, can't win it? We have a major problem. We're putting all this money into science, and still the business isn't benefiting for it. So anyway, I said to her, I'll tell you what, I'll set up what we call Dragon's Den today. I called it a clinic. So I said, give me your 10 best scientists, and I'll pretend to be an investor or a company. So they came in front of me anyway, and they were pitching their ideas, and they were a disaster. I must say, and I used to fall asleep in the middle of the presentation, you know. And I genuinely was falling asleep, so I'd say, wake me up there when you're finished, you know, and all this thing. And so I went back to the director, and she said, what's the problem? I said, you have a major problem. They can't sell. They can tell for hours what they're doing, but they can sell to investors. So she said, look, is there anything you can do for us? I said, look, give me your 10 worst for 2 days, and I'll sort them out. So I designed this course, and she even gave me money for it. You know, I was actually offering to do it for free, such fun to do. She said, no, I have to give you a contract. So I said, fine. And so I designed this 2-day course, and after 2 days, they were like Donald Trump. They were selling in 1 minute. One guy set up a company which became a very successful company afterwards. And then she said, okay, we need to train more people. So they gave me 10 more contracts. And then other universities started to hear what I was doing in research centres. And Philips, the headquarters, heard what I was doing. They brought me to Philips. The Finnish government heard what I was doing, because Finland was putting all this money into research, but the spin-off companies were dying. So they brought me to Finland for 6 months to study the problem. Now, that was 1995. Since 1995, I've stood in front of training 65,000 scientists around Europe in 29 countries. And I've given courses in 250 universities around Europe and 50 research centres. And last year, the list of the top 100 universities was published, and I trained in 74 of the top 100. Now, what do I want to tell those young people? Learn how to sell. Learn how to sell your ideas. Learn how to sell yourself. And if you set up a company, how to sell your products and services. Now, one thing I will guarantee you, you will not learn this in school. You will certainly not learn it in university, and you can take a course on it. The way you learn to sell is, look at Sean Collins, has to sell every day. Pat has to sell when he's doing his next film. Every single day I go to work, I sell. So forget about studying this. Watch the people in Drina. How does Drina Co-op? It's been on the road for 50 years or something. What do they do? How do the music industry sell? So what I teach people is how to sell their ideas. And if you look at startup companies, and this is one thing Ludgate has to look at, is 50% of all startups die within 3 years. And 80% die within 5 years. Now, there's many reasons, but the biggest reason is they can't sell. So maybe sometime I'd love to come to Drumleague or something, or Drina, to show in a couple of hours how to sell ideas and how to sell knowledge. So that's what I do. So if there's one young person here that leaves tonight saying, I'm going to learn how to sell, then Sean, I think it will have been worth coming. Now, before I finish, Sean O'Donnell from Lana would love to have been here tonight, but he's been sick for the last couple of months, and I'm in regular contact with him. So Sean passes on his regards, and he just said he's here with you in spirit. So Sean, thank you very much for this opportunity.